working with our community. We have 76 projects, social venture challenge and pool and fund including. We also have Angel Groves, that's a community in St. Catherine, Claremont Heights, they have a green park, Longville Park, they have a landscaping company, Manig as a community tourism. We have funded training, skills training, with 95% success, skill training, skill for in Denham Town, we have a specific one, Skills for Life. We have 83%, we have funded like 3 CXC subjects for 100 students across the island. We have an 85.3% pass. We're providing small grants to communities and to individuals which have limited social infrastructure, financial on a competitive basis, assistance, as well as we demand equity from either individual or community when we provide the grant. And we look here at some successful, for me, social grant projects, yeah? Oh, that's behavior modification at summer camp we had in St. Catherine, that also we used to. Flip for me, please. The band, the Providence Heights band in functioning here. Environmental management. We continue to assist in the beach cleanup area. We try to use competition for trash to cash in working with various organizations, NEPA, NGO, Scientific Research Council, Jamaica Environmental Fund. And this was somehow spearheaded by late Professor Emeritus Dr. Vincent George from the National Housing Trust, a very serious proponent of the environment as well as social development and social and community development. So we continue to provide opportunities for income generation. If you're not earning, you cannot pay your mortgage. If you cannot pay your mortgage, you're in conflict with the loan management department of the National Housing Trust. That requires the social development department to come in to work with you. So it's very important. Please. So we have a social entrepreneur development framework. We start from budding business to growth business to environmental elevated to a social enterprise. And all these we provide support financially to the various communities. But most of all, and significantly, is our prime project, the best scheme competition. Slip for me, please. Our best scheme competition. Could you continue for me, please? Continue, please. Am I helping? Continue. Our best scheme competition is across the island with all 147 schemes where communities vie for $1.51+ million money that is used in the community for reinvestment in the community. And we focus on environmental awareness, culture, healthy lifestyle practice, education, governance, good payment practice, mortgage payment, entrepreneurship. And that best scheme competition, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the prime activities of the National Housing Trust Social Development Department. Our present winner for best scheme competition is Portmore Pines in St. Catherine. And all eyes from all communities are trying now to dethrone them. But there's the president for the winning scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, in a synopsis, I am told that my time is up. I tried my best. It's a rush presentation. Thank you for being great listener.
Communities and security of tenure ensured. To transform these sort of communities into viable functioning ones. Keep going. And in that regard, in '98, the National Housing Development Corporation was formed, rebranded in 2008 as HAJ, and we'll go back into that later. The challenge of squatting required that in '94, Operation Pride was launched to resolve the shelter needs of the majority, to improve the environmental and health conditions in settlements throughout the country, and to mobilize resources in the informal sector. Why? Poor could not afford the existing housing solutions. There was limited capital in the formal sector, and mortgages could not be accessed by the poor. And that was the rationale for it. So the concept was to provide land legally to low-income groups at affordable prices through subsidies. Keep going. To assess the whole impact of the Pride experience, we realized that the beneficiaries thought that they would be getting benefits much quicker than it would be possible to deliver it. There were large cost overruns, delays, huge losses. There was a lack of transparency in the selection of sites and contractors and beneficiaries as well. The Providence societies that were to manage the process as community representatives, many of them lacked capacity, and there was corruption and nepotism that persisted even into the NHDC period. Sorry, NHD. So, with that background, HAJ was launched in '08 to strengthen governance and to complete the incomplete Pride projects, as well as to undertake profitable greenfield operations. Importantly, in 2012, a new government initiative allowed for incomplete infrastructure projects to have those residents receive titles. This was a major development, and the idea was to put a caveat on the title so that persons who got this benefit would be obliged to help with the completion of that infrastructure in an incremental way. Now, the Tourism Enhancement Fund is one of those sources of income, sources of revenue that has been directed to squatter communities, and Lilliput is one of them. We have here a program that cost $234 million. Roads, drains were put in, and the impact of this has been to allow, in a volatile community, police to access and civic groups to enjoy an improved infrastructure situation. And these are some of the photos that we can look at. What was there before were tracks like on the left. Go back one slide, please. Let me just show this one again. And these have been transformed into drivable roads and has had a positive impact on communities. And I know some of our community representatives from St. James who are here will back me up on this. These are drains that were put in. And the overall physical infrastructure has assisted and has impacted positively those communities. Okay. Similar programs were carried out in Flanker, in Norwood, in St. James, as well as in Shaw Park Heights in St. Anne. If we could just go back to that slide, in terms of the impact. We have to wrap up now. The communities have really been made safer, and the real question is, ladies and gentlemen, is how much can we sustain this in the long run? Just to wrap up really quickly, I see my timekeeper looking at me, glaring at me, that HAJ is now focusing a lot more on getting the titling program underway, where persons who have paid up would be given their titles, and we're looking to put 8,000 titles, which we have in our vaults, in the hands of deserving residents in the next few years. So we can just skip through these. So, in conclusion, we have been, although in a partial way, trying to meet the challenges of squatting and the capturing of lands. And government has been, I think it could be seen as a best practice to say that government has been an enabler for housing through the HAJ. And we have had some success in fulfilling the Habitat agenda, as well as the Habitat Global Campaign for Secure Tenure. Thank you very much. We have more to say, but we just segue into the next section of the presentation, which won't be long, timekeeper.
All right, good morning, everybody. I don't know if it's still morning. Bear with me as I move through as quickly as possible. So I am from Habitat for Humanity under the Building Resilience and Capacities Against Emerging Disasters program. Next slide. All right, so, and it's a case study of Nagahead because that is the community where we have our major interventions. And we have found that the community has used their resources to build their capacity as much as possible. So what we want to do is complement them and meet them halfway or 3/4 of the way, or how much of the way that their resources fall short. And we want to bring the humanity back to these communities and humanize these people. It's not so much that it's a place where it's infested with criminals, it's infested with people who are lazy. No, these are people who are trying their best, and because of other circumstances, of course, we're not making excuses for things that are illegal, but because of other circumstances, they have had to be in these situations. We wanted to ensure that we have a fair distribution of rights, not just housing, because we do housing, but we also focus on land tenure. We wanted to ensure that our approach was transparent, and most of all, that it was participatory, making sure that community members and community groups were involved in every single part of the process. And where no community groups were present, we formed them and built their capacity. And so that's juxtaposed to the fact that we want it to be very efficient, because you know, when you go into communities like this, oftentimes it seems very chaotic and messy, but it's more of a mystery. It's just something that you need to get in there, get your hands dirty, do the research, and get the knowledge on how best to move forward. And so we wanted it again to be efficient, effective, and strategic to maximize on our funds, which are limited. And that we wanted to do to build resilience. So there's a deficit of housing, and we know that that deficit is expensive for the government to undertake. 2 minutes left. That deficit is expensive for the government to undertake. That venture is expensive for the government to undertake. So in the meantime, what happens to people in these vulnerable communities? We need to build their resilience. Next slide, please. So this is Nagahead, or project community. It's outlined in yellow. The transformation parameters, because we had to know what we were working with in order to bring this community from one that is unregularized to one that is regularized. And not only that, if we're unable to do the full process, we want to put the right ingredients in place: community groups, training for builders, etc. So it has close proximity to formal residential areas, which is good, close proximity to commercial areas, close proximity to amenities. It has a dense population, so if we regularize these people, the property tax that will be generated can also be pumped into upgrading initiatives, and it does have some infrastructure and land tenure existing. We're looking at a community with about 13 roads, about 4 drains, roads that are maintained by the parish council, further validating their occupation, generations of families that have lived there and built their lives there, 634 houses. So there's a housing stock that already exists, and we need to move them from a point of where they are and meet them where they are. So if there's flooding in the area, it's not about relocation, it's about building drainage that can alleviate that problem. All right, so this is our approach. It's research and assessment in a nutshell, basically. Research and assessment, field verification, and administration. And the pictures I've chosen are pictures because all of the people that work with us are community members. So on the very left, you see a group of us looking at the community, asking questions as to who owns what plot of land, who are the vulnerable people in the communities, and what is their housing situation like, how many people live in these households. And we generate a rich, rich bank of information through just enumerating people in the community through focus groups, etc. Then we have field verification going on where we go in the streets, we go house to house and get valuable information. And then from that, we have a map that was actually generated by the community. No land surveyor came in and did a topographical survey or boundary survey for that. And that is an accurate representation of what is on ground versus, for example, what the National